President of the Party of European Socialists, PES, Sergei Stanishev has said they are very concerned about the Turkish government's attitude vis-à-vis the critical media in Turkey. Stressing that media freedom was one of the basic topics they followed very closely, Stanishev said everyone was concerned in Europe when journalists like Hidayet Karaca, the chairman of Samanyolu Group, were arrested on charges of leading an armed terrorist organization. During a recent interview with today's Zaman in Brussels at a conference on Islam in Europe organized by think tank FEPS, Stanishev spoke about the attacks on democracy in Europe by populist and anti-Muslim parties. He also stressed the responsibility of both the European Union and Turkey in Turkey's EU accession process. Stanishev said they were all concerned about the Turkish government's relentless efforts to gag media in the country and the arrest of journalists. Populist and Islamophobic parties in Europe are trying to benefit from the fear fueled by the economic crisis and terrorist attacks like the one on Charlie Hebdo, PES President Stanishev told today's Zaman. The Islamophobic parties should be tackled with more democracy and more tolerance. Tolerance is a principle of the European Union. Respect for diversity makes us richer. We are all different nations in the European Union, have different histories and very often a different religious background, Stanishev said. The PES leader stressed the importance of the sustainable integration of Muslims in the European member states. He also pointed to the re-establishment of democratic values in the European Union as a key to tackling the popularity of populist parties. This is why at the last Congress of the Party of European Socialists just a few weeks ago in Budapest, we proposed an EU democracy scoreboard to address different issues which are related to the democratic standards in the EU. The European Commission should develop this scoreboard. In many countries we are facing problems, be it the freedom of speech, be it the control of the government on the media. A scoreboard can be a great preemptive tool. Up to the Turkish government. According to Stanishev, a former Prime Minister of Bulgaria, the European Union should continue its negotiation with Turkey on EU accession. This process depends on the goodwill on both sides. The EU accession is not just about technicalities, about some technical standards. The first and most important criteria are the political criteria, about the independence of the judiciary, the freedom of speech and of the media, and the way the democracy is functioning, Stanishev stated. Thus, the opening of new negotiation chapters is up to the Turkish government, according to Stanishev. It depends on the readiness of the new Turkish government to prepare, open and start concrete talks on very important areas. It's a bilateral process, not a formal one. Opening and closing chapters is not like opening and closing the door. It's a process. Stanishev welcomed the good result of the pro-Kurdish People's Democratic Party, HDP, and the Republican People's Party, CHP, in the latest Turkish parliamentary elections of June 7. Both are associate parties of the PES. The HDP and the CHP together got about 37%, which is very close to the result of the governing party AKP Justice and Development Party. One of the new things from the elections is that after more than 10 years of absolute majority for the AKP, now it has less power and it has to talk to the others and to require a new political culture. In a democracy, dialogue is essential. Thanks to the fact that the HDP passed the 10% threshold, Turkish politics will be more representative, Stanishev said. It will facilitate the political process and the more consensual way of doing politics in Turkey. You need dialogue. In a democracy, it is essential. And I believe that the presence of the HDP in parliament is something very important for Turkey itself and for Turkish democracy. The PES president considered both the HDP and the CHP as important partners in understanding better the crisis of freedom of the press in Turkey, which he considered a great concern for the European Union. We were all concerned when there were arrests of journalists and editors. This is one of the elements we are monitoring very closely. We are in touch with the CHP and the HDP politically and we shall listen to their assessment of the situation. It's also important to hear the information from the horse's mouth, Stanishev explained.